My family dumped me at a homeless shelter in the middle of a blizzard on Christmas Eve. They told me it was for my own safety. They told me the furnace was broken and the carbon monoxide levels were deadly. But as I stood on the freezing pavement, watching my son's taillights fade into the snow, I didn't know that in exactly 12 hours, the balance of power was going to shift in a way none of us could have predicted. Because tucked inside the pocket of my old coat was a crumpled slip of paper worth $10 million, and I was about to make them pay for every single second I spent shivering in the snow. Before I tell you how I destroyed their lives with a smile on my face, please tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Like and subscribe if you believe that karma always has a way of finding the people who deserve it most. There was no Christmas music playing in the car. There was no warmth literally or metaphorically. The heater in Derek's SUV had been blowing cold air for the last 20 minutes. Or maybe it just felt that way because of the silence. I sat in the back seat, my knees pressed against the leather, watching the back of my son's head. He was gripping the steering wheel so hard, his knuckles were white. Next to him, my daughter-in-law Monica was scrolling through her phone, the blue light illuminating a face that hadn't smiled at me in 3 years. I shivered, pulling my threadbare coat tighter around myself. "Derek, is the heat on?" I asked, my voice sounding smaller than I intended. Derek didn't answer. He didn't even look in the rearview mirror. He just kept his eyes fixed on the road, the windshield wipers fighting a losing battle against the heavy snow that was burying Chicago. It was Monica who answered without turning around. "The car needs servicing, Bernard. We just haven't had the money to fix it yet. Maybe if you contributed a bit more from your pension, we could afford basic maintenance." I bit my tongue. My pension. The pension that I had been handing over to them almost in its entirety for the last year, ever since Derek's business collapsed. I wanted to remind her that I paid off the mortgage on the house they were sleeping in. I wanted to remind her that I built that house with my own 2 hands 40 years ago, laying every brick, installing every pipe. But I said nothing. I learned a long time ago that silence was the only way to survive in my own home. The car began to slow down. I looked out the window expecting to see a hotel or maybe the house of a relative. But we were in a part of town I didn't visit. The streetlights were broken. The buildings were old brick, covered in graffiti that the snow couldn't hide. Derek pulled up to the curb in front of a grim 3-story building. A faded sign above the metal door read, "St. Jude's Homeless Shelter." I felt a cold pit form in my stomach. "Derek." "Why are we stopping here?" I asked. The car stopped. The engine idled, vibrating against my seat. Finally, Derek turned around. He couldn't look me in the eye. He looked at my chin, then at my shoulder. "Dad, we have to do this. It's an emergency." Monica spun around in her seat, her patience obviously gone. "Look, Bernard, the furnace at the house just quit. The repairman came while you were napping. He said there is a carbon monoxide leak. It is lethal. We can't stay there tonight. We are going to stay with my parents, but they don't have room for you. They only have 1 guest room and Tyler needs to sleep on the couch. This is the only place that had a bed open on Christmas Eve." I looked at the building again. A line of men were huddled by the door, stomping their feet to stay warm. A shelter. My son was dropping me off at a homeless shelter. "But Derek, surely there's a motel," I stammered. "I have a little cash." "We don't have time to drive around looking for a motel," Bernard, Monica snapped. "The roads are getting worse. Do you want us to crash?" "It is just for 1 night. The repairman is coming back tomorrow morning. We will come pick you up by noon. Now get out, we are freezing." The locks clicked open. I opened the door and the wind hit me like a physical blow. I stepped out onto the icy sidewalk, my old boots slipping slightly. Before I could even close the door, I saw the trunk pop open. Derek got out, walked to the back, and pulled out my suitcase. It wasn't my overnight bag. It was my large, hard-shell suitcase, the one I used for long trips. He set it down on the wet pavement with a thud. I looked at the suitcase, then at him. Derek, why did you pack the big case if it is only for one night? He flinched. He looked like he was about to say something, maybe an apology, maybe the truth. But Monica honked the horn. Derek jumped. He looked at me one last time, his eyes watery, and whispered, "Stay warm, Dad." Then he got back in the car. I stood there as the SUV pulled away, the red taillights disappearing into the swirling white snow. I was 65 years old. I was a retired structural engineer. I had raised that boy alone after his mother died, and he had just left me on a curb with a suitcase that contained, I realized with a sinking heart, everything I owned. This wasn't for one night. They weren't coming back tomorrow. I dragged my suitcase toward the metal doors of St. Jude's. My hands were already numb. Inside, the air smelled of industrial bleach, wet wool, and unwashed bodies. It was a smell of hopelessness. A large woman sat behind a plexiglass window. She looked at me, then at my suitcase, then back at me. Name, she asked, her pen hovering over a clipboard. Bernard Walsh, I said. My voice shook. Date of birth. August 12th, 1958. She wrote it down. Any weapons, drugs, or alcohol? No, I said. I am just here because my house has a gas leak. My son dropped me off. The woman stopped writing. She looked up at me, really looked at me this time. Her eyes softened just a fraction. A gas leak on Christmas Eve, she repeated flatly. Honey, we hear a lot of stories in here. That's a new one. Bed 34, second floor, lights out at 10. Do not lose your ticket or you don't eat breakfast. I took the ticket. I walked through the metal detector. I had to surrender my pocket knife, the one my father gave me. I felt stripped. I felt naked. I found bed 34. It was a cot with a thin mattress and a gray wool blanket. To my left, a man was coughing a wet, rattling cough that sounded like death. To my right, a younger man was rocking back and forth, muttering to someone only he could see. I sat on the edge of the cot. I needed to know. The logic of the engineer in me couldn't let it go. A gas leak, carbon monoxide. It happened. It was possible. But why the big suitcase? And why did Monica look so annoyed rather than scared? I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. It was an older model. The screen cracked from when my grandson Tyler threw it against the wall because I wouldn't buy him a video game. I had 12% battery left. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Miller. John Miller lived next door to us. We had been neighbors for 20 years. We used to share tools. I pressed call. It rang 4 times. Hello, Bernie. John's voice was loud, cheerful. Merry Christmas, buddy. I thought you guys were busy. John, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need you to look out your window. Look at my house. There was a pause, the sound of footsteps. Okay, I'm looking. What am I looking for? Did you leave the lights on? John, are there any repair trucks outside or fire trucks? Repair trucks, no. Why is the house dark, Bernie? The place is lit up like the Rockefeller Center. I can see the Christmas tree in the bay window, and there are cars in the driveway. A Lexus and a Mercedes. Looks like you guys are having a hell of a party. I can hear the music from here. My chest tightened. A sharp pain like a fist squeezing my heart made me gasp. I closed my eyes. A Lexus and a Mercedes. Those were the cars Monica's parents drove. Her father, the retired banker, who looked at me like I was the gardener. Her mother, who always asked if I had washed my hands before touching the dinner rolls. Bernie. You okay? John asked. Yeah, John. I'm okay. Just checking on the timer for the lights. Merry Christmas. I hung up before he could ask any more questions. The phone slipped from my hand onto the gray blanket. There was no gas leak. There was no broken furnace. They were warm. They were safe. They were drinking eggnog and eating the roast I had paid for, sitting in the living room I had floored with oak planks I cut myself. They had kicked me out to make room for Monica's real family. I wasn't just displaced, I was replaced. I lay back on the cot. The pain in my chest was a dull throb now, a reminder of the blood pressure medication I realized I had left in the medicine cabinet. Or maybe Monica had packed it. I didn't have the energy to check the suitcase. I stared at the ceiling, at a water stain, shaped like a map of a country that didn't exist. I felt a tear slide down my temple and into my ear. It was hot and angry. They thought I was garbage. They thought I was a burden to be disposed of in the dark. Derek, my own boy, the one I taught to ride a bike, the one I sat up with when he had fevers, had chosen a woman who hated me over the father who loved him. I closed my eyes, but sleep was impossible. The shelter was a symphony of misery. Snoring, coughing, crying. Hours passed. Around midnight, the man next to me stopped rocking and fell asleep. I sat up. My coat was bunched up under my head as a pillow. I felt something crinkle in the inside pocket. I reached in. My fingers brushed against a piece of thermal paper. I pulled it out. It was a lottery ticket. I had forgotten about it. Earlier that afternoon, before the storm got bad, Monica had sent me to the corner store to get milk for Tyler. Tyler, who is 16 and perfectly capable of walking 2 blocks, was busy playing games on his iPad. So I went. I bought the milk, and with the $2 change, I bought a single ticket for the Christmas Eve Powerball. The jackpot had rolled over for weeks. I smoothed the ticket out on my knee. The numbers were printed in black ink: 05, 12, 28, 34, 49, and the Powerball 07. They were significant numbers. My late wife's birthday, the day we finished building the house, Derek's age when he graduated. I looked around. In the corner of the room, mounted high on the wall in a steel cage, a television was playing the news with the volume low. The chyron at the bottom of the screen was scrolling sports scores. Then the screen changed. The nightly lottery draw results. I squinted. My glasses were in the suitcase, but I could see well enough. The balls dropped one by one. 5. I looked at my ticket. 5. Okay. $2 back. 12. I looked again. 12. That was a coincidence. 28. My heart skipped a beat. It was a physical sensation, a flutter in my ribcage. 3 numbers. That was $100, maybe 34. I sat up straighter. The cot creaked loudly in the quiet room. I held the ticket closer to my face. 34. 4 numbers. That was serious money. That was $50,000. $50,000 meant I didn't have to go back. It meant I could get an apartment. I could leave them. 49. The air left my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I looked at the screen. I looked at the paper. I looked at the screen again. 49. 5 numbers. That was $1 million. My hands started to shake. Not a little tremble, but a violent shaking that made the paper rattle. And the Powerball is 7. 7. The world stopped. The coughing man, the snoring, the smell of bleach, it all vanished. I was sitting in a vacuum of absolute silence. I looked at the ticket. 5, 12, 28, 34, 49. Powerball 7. I had the ticket. I had the only ticket. The news anchor appeared on the screen. We have reports of a single winning ticket sold in Chicago for tonight's $10 million jackpot. $10 million. I didn't scream. I didn't jump up and dance. I felt a cold, icy calm wash over me. It was the same calm I used to feel when I was an engineer standing on a bridge during a storm, assessing the structural integrity. I was assessing my life. $10 million. I looked at the suitcase that held my old clothes. I thought about the freezing walk to the car. I thought about Monica's smirk. I thought about Derek's cowardice. They had thrown me away like trash because they wanted my house and my pension. They wanted the scraps of a life I had spent 40 years building. If they had let me stay, if they had given me a warm bed and a plate of food, this ticket would have been theirs. I would have given it to them. I would have paid off Derek's debts. I would have sent Tyler to college. I would have bought Monica the car she always wanted. Because that's what fathers do. But they didn't let me stay. I carefully folded the ticket. I took off my left sock. I placed the ticket against the sole of my foot, then pulled the sock back on. I put my boot back on and tied the laces tight. Double knots. I lay back down on the cot. I stared at the water stain on the ceiling. It didn't look like a random shape anymore. It looked like a map. A map to a future where I answered to no one. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I lay there plotting. I wasn't just going to claim the money. I was going to claim my dignity. I was going to show them exactly what they had thrown away. And I was going to do it in a way that would ensure they could never, ever hurt me again. Morning came slowly, gray light filtering through the barred windows. The shelter woke up. Men coughing, shuffling to the bathroom. I got up, washed my face with cold water in a sink that had no mirror. I put on my coat. I grabbed my suitcase. I didn't wait for Derek to pick me up at noon. I knew he wouldn't come. I walked out of the shelter into the snow. The storm had passed. The city was covered in a pristine white blanket. It was Christmas Day. I walked 3 blocks to a payphone. My cell phone was dead. I used a quarter I found in my pocket. I didn't call a taxi. I called Henderson. Henderson was an old drinking buddy from my engineering days. He was also the most ruthless divorce and estate lawyer in Illinois. Monica hated him. She had forbidden me from seeing him because she said he was a bad influence. The truth was she was afraid of him because Henderson could smell a rat from 3 miles away. The phone rang for a long time. It was Christmas morning after all. Finally, a gruff voice answered. "Yeah. Who is this, Henderson? It's Bernie. Bernie Walsh. Bernie, Merry Christmas. Why are you calling me at 7 in the morning from—" He paused, likely checking the caller ID. "From a payphone on 5th Street. Did you get arrested? No, Henderson. Listen to me carefully. I need you to meet me at your office in an hour." "Bernie, are you crazy? It's Christmas. I'm in my pajamas. I'm making waffles for the grandkids." "Henderson," I said, my voice low and hard, "I am holding a piece of paper worth $10 million, and I need to cash it, and then I need to evict 3 people from my house before dinner time." There was a silence on the line, a long, heavy silence. Then I heard the sound of a chair scraping and keys jingling. "I'll make the coffee," Henderson said. "Don't talk to anyone else. Get here now." I hung up the phone. A taxi drove by and I flagged it down. I got in and gave the address. As we drove toward downtown, I passed my neighborhood. I saw the street leading to my house. I imagined them waking up hungover from their party, eating the breakfast I paid for, opening presents under the tree I decorated. They probably thought I was still sleeping on a cot, miserable and cold. They had no idea that the storm was coming back. And this time it wasn't bringing snow. It was bringing a judgment day they would never forget. When I arrived at Henderson's office, he was waiting at the glass doors of the high-rise. He was wearing a tracksuit and a trench coat, looking disheveled but alert. He ushered me in past the security and up to the 42nd floor. We sat in his office overlooking the frozen lake. I took off my boot. I took off my sock. I placed the ticket on his mahogany desk. Henderson put on his glasses. He looked at the ticket. He pulled up the numbers on his computer. He looked back at the ticket. He let out a low whistle. "Well, Bernie," he said, leaning back, "you weren't lying. That is a very pretty piece of paper. Now tell me why you want to evict your own son on Christmas Day. I told him. I told him about the ride, the shelter, the lie about the gas, the party. Henderson listened without interrupting. His face grew harder with every sentence. He was a lawyer, he had seen the worst of human nature, but even he looked disgusted. When I finished, he stood up and walked to the window. So he said, turning back to me, "Here is the situation. You are rich, insanely rich, but right now, legally, you are a vulnerable senior citizen who was abandoned by his caregivers. That gives us leverage. A lot of leverage." "What do we do?" I asked. First, Henderson said, picking up his phone, "We verify this ticket with the Lottery Commission. I know the director. I'll get him to open the office for a verified claim today. We want this public. We want this loud." "Why public?" I asked. "Usually people want to stay anonymous." "Not you." Henderson smiled a shark-like grin that showed all his teeth. "You want them to see it. You want them to know exactly what they lost. If we keep it quiet, they might try to manipulate you, say you were senile, try to get power of attorney before the money hits your account. But if you are on the 6 o'clock news holding a giant check that protects you, it proves you are competent, and it drives the knife in deeper." I nodded. "Do it." "And the eviction?" Henderson cracked his knuckles. "Technically, the house is in your name, right? Yes. I never signed it over even though Monica kept asking." "Good man. That means they are guests. Guests who have overstayed their welcome. But we can't just kick them out in the snow without a process. Unless what? Unless we catch them committing a crime. Or unless we make them leave voluntarily because they think they are getting something better." I looked at Henderson. "I don't want to give them anything better." "You won't," Henderson said. "We are going to play a game, Bernie. A game called The Prodigal Father Returns. We are going to let them see the money. We are going to let them smell it. We are going to let them think they won the lottery too. And just when they reach out to grab it, we are going to snap the trap shut." I liked the sound of that. By noon, we were at the lottery headquarters. The director, a man named Mr. Sterling, was there in a tuxedo. He had been on his way to a gala. He verified the ticket. He shook my hand. "We can have the press conference set up for the morning news tomorrow," Sterling said. "Or we can do a breaking news spot tonight." "Tonight," I said. "Prime time." Done. Henderson arranged for me to stay in the presidential suite of the Four Seasons. He sent a personal shopper to get me a suit. No more threadbare coats. I showered, shaved, and stared at the stranger in the mirror. He looked like Bernie Walsh, but his eyes were different. They were colder. At 6 o'clock, I sat in the hotel suite. Henderson was next to me. We turned on the TV. The local news intro played. Then the anchor's face appeared. "Breaking news this Christmas evening. In a miraculous turn of events, the sole winner of last night's $10 million Powerball jackpot has come forward." But the story behind the win is heartbreaking. Bernard Walsh, a 65-year-old retired engineer, purchased the winning ticket just hours before spending Christmas Eve in a homeless shelter. The screen changed to a pre-recorded video of me standing in the lottery office holding the giant check. I looked straight into the camera lens. "I want to thank God," I said in the video, "and I want to thank my family. If they hadn't dropped me off at the shelter last night because there was no room for me in my own home, I might never have checked this ticket. This is a new beginning for me. A beginning where I choose who belongs in my life." The segment ended. I looked at Henderson. "Now we wait," he said. My phone, which was charging on the table, lit up. It was Derek, then Monica, then Tyler, then Derek again. It buzzed and vibrated like an angry hornet. "Don't answer," Henderson said. "Let them sweat. Let them marinate in it." We ordered steak and lobster from room service. I ate slowly, savoring every bite. I imagined the scene at my house. The screaming, the panic, The realization that they had just thrown away $10 million. Around 8 o'clock, Henderson's phone rang. It was the security desk downstairs. Mr. Henderson, the guard, said, "We have a group down here. A Mr. Derek Walsh and his wife. They are shouting. They say they are here to pick up their father. They say he is confused and they need to take him home." Henderson looked at me. "Showtime, Bernie." We went down to the lobby. The elevator doors opened and I saw them. Derek was sweating despite the cold. Monica's makeup was smeared. Her parents were there too, looking indignant. Dad Derek shouted when he saw me. He tried to run past the security guard, but the guard put a heavy hand on his chest. "Dad, thank God we found you. We saw the news." "It's all a misunderstanding." I stepped out of the elevator. I was wearing a $3,000 Italian suit. I stood tall. "A misunderstanding?" I asked calmly. "Yes," Monica yelled, pushing forward. "The furnace, The repairman came back. He fixed it. It's safe now. We were so worried when we went to the shelter and you were gone." I looked at them. I looked at the fear and greed in their eyes. "The furnace is fixed?" I asked. "Yes." "Yes," Derek nodded frantically. "Come home, Dad. It's Christmas. You shouldn't be in a hotel. You belong with us." I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "That's amazing, Derek. It's amazing how fast you fixed a furnace that wasn't broken. And it's amazing how you went to the shelter to find me, considering I never told anyone I was here." Derek froze. "But you know what I said checking my new Rolex. I am tired. It has been a long day." "Dad, please," Derek begged. I looked at Henderson. Henderson nodded. "Fine," I said. "I'll come home." "But things are going to be different, Derek. Very different." "Of course, Dad." "Anything you want." Monica said, her eyes practically glowing with dollar signs. I walked past them toward the revolving doors where the hotel limo was waiting. I didn't let them ride with me. I let them follow in their car. As I sat in the leather seat of the limo watching the city lights pass by, I knew the real game was just beginning. I was going back into the snake pit. But this time I was the one with the venom, and I wasn't going to strike until they exposed their necks. The coffee in Arthur Henderson's office tasted like battery acid and salvation. It was Christmas morning. The city outside was silent under a blanket of fresh snow. And I was sitting across from the only man in Chicago who hated my daughter-in-law as much as I did. Henderson was wearing a flannel robe over a dress shirt, his gray hair standing up in tufts, looking every bit the curmudgeon he was famous for being. But his eyes were sharp, locked onto the small slip of thermal paper sitting on his mahogany desk. He picked it up with a pair of tweezers he had pulled from a desk drawer, treating it like a piece of radioactive material. He scanned it against the numbers on his computer screen back and forth 3 times. Then he took off his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose, and let out a low, long whistle that sounded like a deflating tire. "Bernard," he said, his voice gravelly from lack of sleep, "do you have any idea what you have just done? You have just become the most dangerous man in Illinois." I took a sip of the terrible coffee. I didn't feel dangerous. I felt tired. My bones still ached from the cot at the shelter. I told him I didn't want to be dangerous. I just wanted my life back. I wanted them out of my house. Henderson shook his head, a shark-like grin spreading across his face. "No, Bernie. You are thinking too small. Evicting them is easy. We can have the sheriff there by noon. But you told me they dumped you in a shelter. You told me they lied about a gas leak to throw a party. That is not a tenancy dispute. That is war. And in war you do not just repel the enemy. You crush them so they can never come back." He swiveled his chair and started typing furiously. "First things first, we need to secure the asset. I am drafting a blind trust. We claim the money in the name of the trust. Your name stays off the initial press release if you want, but you said you wanted them to see it." "I want them to see it," I confirmed. I want them to choke on their eggnog. Good, Henderson said. We go public. But before we do that, we need to secure the battlefield. He looked at me over his monitor. The house. The deed. Is it in your name? Yes, I said. I built it. I paid for it. Did you ever sign a quitclaim deed? Did you ever add Derek to the title? Did you ever sign a power of attorney giving them control over your real estate assets? I shook my head. Monica had tried. She had brought papers home a dozen times saying it was for estate planning, saying it would save on taxes. I always told her I would think about it. I never signed. Henderson pulled up the county recorder's website. He clicked a few keys, hummed to himself, and then nodded. You are clear. Bernard Walsh, sole owner. That means they are trespassing. But, and this is the important part, they don't know that you know they are trespassing. They think you are a confused old man who thinks there is a gas leak. He reached for his desk phone and dialed a number from memory. It was 7:30 in the morning on Christmas, but someone answered. Henderson didn't even say hello. Miller. It's Henderson. I have a job. Triple rate because it's Christmas. No, not a divorce. Surveillance. I need you to go to the Walsh residence in Oak Park. I need audio and video inside the common areas. Yes, today. I don't care how you do it. Use the trick. He hung up and looked at me. Miller is the best private investigator in the city. He is an ex-cop who got fired for being too good at bending the rules. He is going to get ears inside your house within the hour. How? I asked. They won't let a stranger in. Henderson smirked. They won't let a stranger in, but they will let a delivery driver in, or a utility worker. Or better yet, they will let a concerned neighbor in who found something belonging to poor old Bernie. He leaned forward, his elbows on the desk. Here is the strategy, Bernie. Listen close. We are not going to kick them out today. We are going to let them stay. We are going to let them think they won. We need to record them. We need to hear them admitting to what they did. We need to hear them conspiring to get your money. In this state, if we can prove elder abuse or conspiracy to commit fraud, we don't just evict them. We prosecute them. We make sure they leave in handcuffs, not in an Uber. I felt a cold shiver go down my spine. Jail. My own son. I looked at the snow falling outside the window. I thought about him driving away last night. I thought about the heavy suitcase. He knew. He knew he wasn't coming back for me. Do it, I said. Henderson nodded. Now we need a pretext for Miller to get the bugs in. You left your medication there, right? My blood pressure pills, I said. They are in the medicine cabinet in the master bathroom, which they took over 3 years ago. Perfect, Henderson said. Miller is going to go to the door. He is going to say he is a courier sent by you to retrieve your life-saving medication because you are stuck at a friend's house due to the storm. While he is waiting for them to fetch the pills, he is going to plant 3 listening devices. 1 in the kitchen, 1 in the living room, and 1 in the hallway. They are smaller than a dime. They have a 48-hour battery life. That is all we need. He pushed a stack of papers across the desk toward me. This is a retainer agreement. It gives me full authority to act as your legal representative. It also authorizes the formation of the trust and the hiring of the private investigator. Sign it, and you stop being a victim. Sign it, and you become the CEO of your own retribution. I picked up the pen. It was a heavy, expensive fountain pen. It felt solid in my hand. I looked at the signature line. For years, I had signed checks for Derek's failed businesses. I had signed for his car loans. I had signed for his bail that one time in college. I had signed my life away piece by piece trying to buy his love. This was the first time I was signing for myself. I wrote my name in clear, bold letters. Bernard Walsh. I put the pen down. Henderson snatched the papers up and filed them instantly. Done. Now get changed. I have a suit in the closet that should fit you. We have a press conference to schedule. But before that, we need to make one phone call to the bank. The bank, I asked. Henderson's eyes glittered. We need to freeze your current assets. Not the lottery money. Your checking account, your savings, the pension they have been draining. We are going to lock it all down. When they try to buy their Christmas dinner or fill up their gas tank today, I want the card to decline. I want them to feel the first pinch of the winter cold. I want them to start panicking. Because when people panic, Bernie, they make mistakes. And we are going to be listening to every single one of them. He picked up the phone again. The game had begun. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one who was going to lose. The fire in the limestone hearth was roaring, casting a golden, indulgent glow over the living room I had built with my own hands 40 years ago. It was the kind of warmth that seeped into the bones, the exact opposite of the industrial chill I had suffered through at the shelter just hours before. But I wasn't there to feel it. Instead, my son Derek was sitting in my leather recliner, his legs crossed, a glass of my 30-year-old scotch resting on his knee. The house smelled of rosemary and roasting beef, a dinner prepared by a catering service Monica had hired using the emergency credit card I thought was for medical expenses. Monica was holding court on the plush beige sofa, flanked by her parents, George and Linda. They were the replacements, the upgrade she had always wanted. George, a retired banker with a perpetual sneer, was laughing at something Derek had said. Probably a joke about how quiet the house was without the old man shuffling around. They were celebrating. It wasn't just a Christmas party. It was a victory lap. They had successfully purged the house of its owner, and now they were dividing the spoils before the body was even cold. I know all of this because the high-fidelity listening devices Miller had planted inside the crown molding were transmitting every clink of crystal and every cruel laugh directly to the laptop sitting in front of me in the hotel suite. The 65-inch television, another gift I had bought for the family 3 Christmases ago, was playing the local news at a low volume, a backdrop of flickering blue light against the festive decorations. Monica reached for a piece of bruschetta, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "It is so much more relaxing this year, isn't it?" she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. Without having to worry about his diet or his pills or him falling asleep in the middle of presents. It just feels like our house, finally. Her mother, Linda, nodded sympathetically. "You did the right thing, honey. Assisted living is the best place for him. You can't be expected to be a nurse at your age. You have a life to live." Derek took a long sip of the scotch. "Yeah. We will go pick him up tomorrow, maybe drop him off at that state facility in Waukegan. I heard they have beds. It's better this way." He's confused. He probably thinks he's on a vacation. Then the music on the television changed. The aggressive, upbeat tempo of the breaking news alert cut through their conversation. The screen turned bright red. Derek glanced at the TV, annoyed. "Turn that down, babe," he said to Monica. "It's probably just another weather alert." But Monica didn't turn it down. She froze her hand halfway to her mouth. Her eyes widened, fixed on the screen. "Derek," she whispered. "Look." On the screen, the anchorwoman's face was grave yet excited. "Breaking news this Christmas evening. In a miraculous turn of events, the sole winner of last night's $10 million Powerball jackpot has come forward. But the story behind the win is heartbreaking." The camera cut to the pre-recorded clip. There I was. I wasn't the hunched, defeated old man they had shoved out of the car the night before. I was wearing the Italian suit Henderson had bought me. I was standing tall, my shoulders back, holding a check that was larger than my torso. The numbers on it were clear $10 million. The silence in my living room was absolute. It was the silence of a tomb. The only sound was the crackling of the fire and my voice coming from the television speakers. "I want to thank God," the television Bernie said, looking straight into the lens, staring right into the souls of the people sitting on my sofa. "And I want to thank my family. If they hadn't dropped me off at the shelter last night because there was no room for me in my own home, I might never have checked this ticket. This is a new beginning for me. A beginning where I choose who belongs in my life. The clip ended. The anchor reappeared. Mr. Walsh is currently staying at an undisclosed location for his safety, but sources say he plans to remain in Chicago to settle his affairs. The crystal glass slipped from Monica's fingers. It hit the hardwood floor and shattered the amber liquid splashing onto the Persian rug. She didn't even blink. She stared at the black screen where my face had been, her mouth hanging open in a rictus of horror. Derek stood up so fast his chair tipped backward and crashed onto the floor. He walked toward the television, stumbling like a drunk man, reaching out as if he could grab the money through the glass. "No," he wheezed. No, that's Dad." Monica's father, George, stood up, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. "Is that true, Derek? Did your father just win $10 million? Derek turned to Monica. His face was pale, stripped of all the arrogance he had worn just moments ago. "You drove him there," he screamed, his voice cracking. "You made me drop him off. You said we needed the room." Monica snapped out of her trance. She flew off the sofa, her face contorted with rage. "Don't you put this on me, Derek. You agreed. You said he was a burden. You carried the suitcase, but the ticket." Derek yelled, grabbing his hair with both hands. "He bought the ticket yesterday. I sent him to the store. If we had let him stay, if he was here, that ticket would be on this table. We would be rich." "We are supposed to be rich," Monica shrieked. "That is our money." "He is senile. He doesn't know what he is doing. He is going to give it away." The panic in the room shifted from shock to something much darker. Survival. Through the audio feed, I heard the desperation that I had only suspected before. "We owe the investors," Derek, Monica hissed, grabbing his lapels. "We owe them $80,000 by the 1st of the month. If we don't pay, they take the cars. They take everything. We needed to sell this house. That was the plan. We can't sell the house." "If he has $10 million in lawyers?" Derek cried. "He's going to figure it out." "Did you hear what he said? He said he chooses who belongs in his life. He knows, Monica. He knows we dumped him." Monica's eyes darted around the room, manic and terrifying. "Call him. Call him right now." Derek fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking so badly he dropped it twice. He dialed. I watched my own phone sitting on the marble table in the hotel suite. It lit up. Derek. Calling. "Let it ring," Henderson whispered from the chair next to me. I let it ring. "Answer, damn you, answer!" Derek screamed at the phone in the living room. "Dad, pick up." "He's not answering," Derek said, terrified. "Call him again," Monica yelled. "Tell him we saw the news. Tell him we love him. Tell him the furnace is fixed." He dialed again. My phone buzzed again. I took a sip of water, watching the name flash on the screen. My son. The boy I had carried on my shoulders. The man who was now sweating through his shirt because he had lost his golden goose. "He isn't picking up." Derek sobbed. "He never turns his phone off. He's ignoring us." "He is with someone," Monica said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Did you see the suit? Did you see the haircut? Someone got to him. Some lawyer shark got to him. They are going to steal our money, Derek." Her mother. Linda spoke up from the corner, her voice shrill. "Well, don't just stand there. You have to go get him. You are his son. He is confused. He is old. You have power of attorney, don't you?" "No," Derek yelled. "He never signed it." "Monica was supposed to get him to sign it next week, you idiots," George roared. "You let $10 million walk out the door in a snowstorm." Monica grabbed her purse. Shut up, all of you. We can fix this. He is weak. He has always been weak. He loves Derek too much. We just need to get him alone. We need to get him away from whoever is handling him." "Where is he?" Derek asked. The news said undisclosed location, Monica said, pacing like a caged animal. But he likes the Four Seasons. He always talked about their brunch, or the Ritz. Check the credit card, check the joint account. I canceled it, Derek said. I canceled his card this morning so he couldn't buy a bus ticket back here. The silence that followed was heavy with their own stupidity. Okay, Monica said, taking a deep breath. We drive. We check every 5-star hotel in the city. He can't hide. He is our father. We have a right to him. We are going to bring him home. We are going to put him in his bed. And we are going to make him sign that ticket over to us before the sun comes up. Get the car. I heard the sound of keys jingling, the heavy front door slamming shut, and the frantic revving of an engine in the driveway. In the hotel suite, I leaned back. They were coming. They were coming to claim what they thought they owned. They were coming with lies about furnaces and love fueled by a panic that only money could generate. Henderson looked at me. Are you ready? I straightened my tie. I looked at the image of myself on the paused TV screen holding the check. Let them come, I said. I have a reception waiting for them that they will never forget. The crystal chandelier in the center of the hotel lobby was the size of a small car, casting prisms of light across the marble floor. I stood directly beneath it. Henderson, a silent shadow at my shoulder, as the revolving doors spun and spat out my family. They didn't look like they belonged here. The hotel smelled of fresh lilies and expensive perfume. They smelled of frantic desperation and exhaust fumes. Derek spotted me first. He froze, his eyes widening, as he took in the suit. The posture, the sheer difference in the man he had dumped on a curb less than 24 hours ago. For a split second, I saw the guilt. It flickered across his face like a shadow, but then, inevitably, the greed washed it away. Dad, he shouted, his voice cracking. He started to run, his heavy boots clomping loudly on the polished stone. 2 security guards stepped forward, forming a wall of black wool, but I waved a hand. Let him come. I needed this. I needed to feel the Judas kiss. He crashed into me, wrapping his arms around my shoulders, burying his face in my new Italian suit. He was shaking, violently shaking. Dad. Oh my God. We were so scared. We thought we lost you. I didn't hug him back. I let my arms hang by my sides, standing rigid as a statue. You didn't lose me, Derek, I said, my voice devoid of any warmth. You dropped me off. Monica was right behind him. She didn't hug me. She stopped 3 feet away, her hands flying to her mouth in a performance that deserved an award. She let out a sob, a wet, ragged sound that echoed in the quiet lobby. Bernard. How could you do this to us? We went back to the shelter this morning to get you. The furnace was fixed. We were going to bring you home for Christmas breakfast, and you were gone. She was good. She was terrifyingly good. If I hadn't heard her voice through the wiretap an hour ago laughing about how much easier life was without me, I might have wavered. I looked at her mascara artfully smudged to suggest hours of weeping. You went back, I asked, keeping my face blank. Yes, of course, her mother Linda chimed in, stepping forward and clutching her pearls. We drove around for hours, Bernie. We were terrified. A man your age wandering the city in the snow. With all that money, there it was. The money. It took them less than 60 seconds to get to the point. I took a step back, breaking Derek's grip. He looked at me, his eyes red and pleading. He looked at the cold expression on my face, and he must have realized that his usual charm wasn't working. So he did something he hadn't done since he was a child, trying to get out of a punishment. He dropped to his knees. Right there in the lobby of the Four Seasons, my son fell to his knees and grabbed my hand. Dad, please, he wept. I am so sorry. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. I wasn't thinking straight. I was panicked about the gas. I just wanted you to be safe. Please forgive me. Come home. Let us take care of you. You shouldn't be alone with all this. This pressure. People were staring. A couple in evening wear stopped near the elevators, whispering. I looked down at the top of his head. It was pathetic. It was humiliating. And it was exactly what I needed to see. He was terrified. Not of losing his father, but of losing his lifeline. I looked at Henderson. He gave me a barely perceptible nod. The trap was set. The bait was taken. Now I just had to walk into the cage. I let out a long, weary sigh, the sound of an old man who just wants peace. Get up, Derek, I said softly. You are making a scene. He scrambled to his feet, hope flooding his face. You will come home. I looked at Monica. She was holding her breath, her eyes locked on mine like a laser. She was calculating. She was already spending the money in her head. I am tired, I said. I have been sleeping on a cot. I have been dealing with lawyers and bankers all day. I just want to sit in my own chair. Yes, Monica cried, clapping her hands together. Yes, Bernard, your chair is waiting for you. The fire is lit. We saved you some roast. I am sure you did, I said. But things are going to be different. I added, my voice hardening just enough to make them flinch. I am not going to be treated like a guest in my own house anymore. Of course not. George Monica's father boomed, stepping in to slap me on the back. You are the man of the house, Bernie. The patriarch. The patriarch. Yesterday I was the nuisance. Today I was the patriarch. $10 million had a way of rewriting history. Fine, I said. I will come home. Derek let out a breath that sounded like a deflating balloon. Thank you, Dad. Thank you. Monica was already reaching for her phone, no doubt to text her friends that the crisis was averted. The golden goose was secured. I turned toward the glass doors. My car is waiting, I said. Your car? Derek asked, confused. We have the SUV right outside. I pointed through the glass. A black stretch limousine was idling at the curb, sleek and imposing. I think I will take the limo, I said. I have grown accustomed to the legroom. You can follow me. Derek's face fell. He wanted me in his car. He wanted me contained, controlled, isolated. But he forced a smile. Sure, Dad. Whatever you want. We will be right behind you. I walked toward the doors. Henderson held them open for me. As I passed him, he leaned in, his voice a whisper only I could hear. Don't sign anything. I won't. I whispered back. I stepped out into the cold night air, but this time I didn't feel the chill. I felt the heat of the game. I climbed into the back of the limousine, the leather cool and smooth. I watched through the tinted rear window as my family scrambled into their dented SUV, desperate not to lose sight of me. They looked relieved. They looked triumphant. They thought they had won. I poured myself a glass of sparkling water from the limo's bar. All right, I said to the empty car. Let's go home. After all, family is everything. The limousine tires crunched over the snow in my driveway, a sound that felt distinctly different from the scraping of my boots on the ice 24 hours earlier. When the driver opened the door, I didn't step out into the cold wind of abandonment. I stepped out into a receiving line. Derek was already there, his hand extended to help me up, treating me as if I were made of fragile antique porcelain, instead of the same flesh and bone he had discarded the night before. Careful, Dad. He said, his voice thick with a solicitousness that made my skin crawl. The steps are slippery. I wouldn't want you to fall. I looked at him. This was the man who had watched me drag a heavy suitcase across a frozen parking lot without lifting a finger. Now he was guiding me by the elbow, shielding me from a non-existent breeze. I let him do it. I let him lead me up the walkway, past the snow-covered azaleas I had planted for his mother, and toward the front door where Monica was waiting. She had fixed her makeup. The mascara streaks were gone, replaced by a fresh coat of lipstick and a smile that looked like it had been stapled onto her face. She held the door open wide, ushering me into the warmth. "Welcome home, Bernard," she said, practically curtsying. "We kept the fire going for you. Here, let me take your coat. That is a beautiful suit." "Is it silk?" "It is," I said, allowing her to peel the jacket from my shoulders. She stroked the fabric with a hunger that wasn't about fashion. It was about value. She was assessing the net worth of the man standing in her foyer. The house smelled of roasted beef and expensive red wine, a scent that should have been comforting but now smelled like bait. They led me to the dining room. The table was set with the good china, the wedding china my wife and I had received 40 years ago, which Monica usually kept locked away in a cabinet because she said I was too clumsy to use it. Now my place setting was at the head of the table, flanked by crystal goblets and polished silver. "Sit, Dad. Sit," Derek urged, pulling out the chair. I sat. I looked around the table. Monica's parents, George and Linda, were already seated, smiling at me with a terrifying intensity. Bernie George boomed, raising his glass. "The man of the hour, we were just saying how incredible this is. A miracle, truly. A miracle," I agreed, unfolding my napkin. "Or luck. Or maybe justice." They laughed nervously. Justice, George chuckled. "Yes, justice. You deserve it, Bernie. You worked hard your whole life." I looked at him. "You told me last Thanksgiving that I was a leech on society because I retired early," I said calmly. George choked on his wine. He coughed, turning red. "Oh, Bernie, that was just banter. You know how I am, political talk. I never meant you specifically." I didn't smile. I just picked up my fork. Just then, the kitchen door swung open and my grandson Tyler walked in. He was 16 years old, wearing headphones around his neck, and a sullen expression that usually greeted me whenever I entered a room. But tonight, the headphones were off. He was wearing a collared shirt that wasn't tucked in, but it was an effort. He stopped at the table and looked at me. His eyes went to the suit, then to the watch Henderson had loaned me, then to my face. "Hey, Grandpa," he said. "Hello, Tyler," I replied. He shuffled his feet. I saw you on TV. That was crazy." "It was," I said. "Is it true?" he asked, sliding into the chair next to me. "Do you really have $10 million? Derek cleared his throat. "Tyler, don't be rude." "It is okay," I said, waving a hand. "Yes, Tyler. It is true." Tyler's face transformed. The sullen teenager vanished, replaced by a bright-eyed, eager child. "That is awesome, Grandpa. Seriously. You know, I was telling Dad, my car, the Honda. It's making a weird noise. The transmission is shot." Tyler, Monica hissed. "Not now." "No, it's fine," I said, leaning back in my chair, swirling the wine I shouldn't be drinking with my blood pressure medication. "Tell me about the car, Tyler." "Well," Tyler said, leaning in, sensing an opening. "It's just old, you know. And I was thinking, since you have all this money now, maybe I could drive you around. I could be like your personal driver. But I would need something safer. Something reliable." "Reliable," I repeated. "Yeah. Like, I saw this Range Rover online. It's got great safety ratings, and it would be perfect for getting you to your appointments and stuff." "A Range Rover," I mused. "That is an expensive car, Tyler." "It is an investment," Tyler said quickly. "For the family." I looked at Derek and Monica. They were trying to look disapproving, but their eyes were gleaming. They wanted the car as much as he did. They saw it as the first drop of rain in the coming monsoon of cash. I took a slow bite of the roast beef. It was overcooked. "You know, Tyler," I said, chewing thoughtfully, "a man in my position should ensure his family travels in style. If I am going to be a philanthropist, I can't have my grandson driving a broken Honda." Tyler's jaw dropped. "Really? You mean it?" I nodded. "We will talk about it tomorrow. Maybe we can go to the dealership. Pick out something suitable." Tyler practically vibrated in his seat. Thanks, Grandpa. You're the best. He picked up his fork and started eating with gusto, casting admiring glances at me between bites. It was disgusting. It was intoxicating. I was buying their affection with money I hadn't even deposited yet, and they were selling it so cheaply it was pathetic. The dinner continued. Monica piled more potatoes onto my plate. Derek kept refilling my wine glass, asking me about the lottery office, asking me about the trust, asking me about the taxes. He was fishing. He wanted to know where the money was. So Dad Derek said casually, trying to sound like a responsible son, "We need to make sure this is handled correctly. Henderson, he is a divorce lawyer, right? Is he really the best person to handle a sum this large? I have a friend, a wealth manager at George's old firm. He could set up a diversified portfolio for you." I wiped my mouth with the linen napkin. "Henderson is handling the legal side," I said. "But you are right, Derek. I need someone I trust to handle the accounts, someone family." Monica stopped chewing. She looked at Derek. Derek looked at me, his heart clearly pounding against his ribs. I am so overwhelmed I continued, putting a tremor into my voice. "The forms, the taxes, my eyes aren't what they used to be. I get confused with all the zeros. We can help," Monica said, her voice soft and predatory. "We can handle the day-to-day, Bernard. You shouldn't have to worry about bills anymore. We can set up a joint account, just for access so we can pay your expenses." "That sounds helpful," I said. "I suppose I should put the paperwork in the safe for tonight. I have the preliminary trust documents in my pocket." "The safe," Derek exclaimed. "Yes, great idea. The wall safe in the study. It's the most secure place in the house." "Let's do it now," Monica said, standing up immediately. "Before dessert, just so we can relax knowing it is secure." I nodded slowly and stood up. My legs felt heavy, feigning the exhaustion of an old man. I walked toward the study, the entire family trailing behind me like a parade of vultures. The study was the one room in the house they hadn't completely colonized. My old drafting table was still in the corner, covered in dust. The wall safe was behind a painting of a ship that my father had left me. Derek moved the painting. The digital keypad of the safe glowed in the dim light. "Go ahead, Dad," Derek said, stepping back to give me room. I stood in front of the safe. I stared at the numbers. I knew the code. It was my wedding anniversary. To 1480. I had opened this safe 1,000 times. I raised my hand. My finger hovered over the 4. Then I stopped. I lowered my hand. "What's wrong?" Monica asked from the doorway. I rubbed my forehead. I turned to look at them, putting a look of utter bewilderment on my face. "I can't remember." "You can't remember the code?" Derek asked, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. "Dad, you open this safe every month to get your passport." "I know," I said, my voice rising in fake panic. "I know. But it's gone. My mind. It's just blank. It has been such a long day. The shelter, the snow, the shock. It's okay," Monica said, stepping forward, her voice tight. "It's okay, Bernard. Just take a breath. Is it your birthday?" I tried. 0812. The safe beeped. Error. "Is it Derek's birthday?" she suggested. I tried. 0319. Error. "Is it 1234?" Tyler offered from the back. I tried. Error. "System locked. Wait 15 minutes. The red light on the safe blinked mockingly. I slumped against the desk. "I am sorry," I whispered. "I am so useless. My memory. It is getting worse." The doctor said. I let the sentence hang. I watched them. I saw the look that passed between Monica and Derek. It wasn't concern. It was calculation. "He is losing it," Derek's eyes said. "He is senile, Monica's eyes replied. Perfect, their shared gaze concluded. Don't worry, Dad, Derek said, putting a hand on my shoulder. It happens. Stress does crazy things to the mind. We can try again in the morning. Or, he paused, looking at Monica. Or maybe we can call a locksmith tomorrow. If you really can't remember. We need to make sure those documents are safe. Yes, I said, sounding defeated. A locksmith. That is a good idea. I am so confused lately. Monica walked over and took my arm. Come on, Bernard. You are exhausted. Let's get you to bed. You need rest. We will take care of everything. She led me out of the study. As we walked away, I glanced back. Derek was still staring at the safe, his greed practically burning a hole through the steel door. He thought I was a broken, senile old man who had just handed him the keys to the kingdom. He thought his plan to declare me incompetent was going to be easier than he ever imagined. He had no idea that the safe was empty. I had moved the deed and my passport to a safety deposit box 3 months ago, and the trust documents in my pocket. They were just brochures for luxury yachts I had picked up in the hotel lobby. I let Monica lead me up the stairs to my bedroom. She turned down the covers. She fluffed the pillow. Sleep well, Bernard, she said. We are so glad you are home. I laid my head on the pillow. I listened to her footsteps retreating down the hall. Then I listened to the hushed, excited whispers coming from downstairs as they plotted how to spend my money. I smiled in the dark. Let them dream tonight. Because tomorrow the nightmare begins. The morning sun that filtered through the bay windows of the breakfast nook was deceptively cheerful, casting bright squares of light onto the table where my execution was being prepared. The smell of bacon grease and freshly brewed coffee hung heavy in the air, a domestic camouflage for the ambush that was waiting for me next to the toast rack. I sat there nursing a cup of lukewarm tea, watching the steam rise and twist, trying to calm the racing of my heart. I had to look tired. I had to look defeated. I had to look like a man whose mind was slipping through his fingers like dry sand. Monica was moving around the kitchen with a manic energy, her heels clicking sharply against the tile floor. She wasn't cooking. She was arranging. She placed a stack of documents on the table, with a heavy thud right next to my plate of scrambled eggs. It wasn't a napkin. It wasn't the morning paper. It was a sheaf of legal-sized paper stapled at the corner, thick with fine print and bad intentions. Here we go, Bernard, she said, her voice coated in that synthetic sweetness she reserved for when she wanted something expensive. Eat up. You need your strength. We have a big day ahead of us. I looked at the papers. I didn't touch them. I looked at Derek, who was sitting across from me aggressively buttering a piece of toast. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He was focused on the bread, tearing it apart with unnecessary force. What is this? I asked, keeping my voice thin and quavering. Is it about the lottery taxes? Annika pulled out a chair and sat next to me too close. Her perfume was overpowering, a floral assault meant to distract. No, Bernard. It is not taxes. We handled the taxes in our heads already. This is about protection. Protection, I repeated, letting my hand shake as I reached for my water glass. Yes, Dad, Derek said, finally looking up. His eyes were bloodshot. He clearly hadn't slept, probably staying up all night counting my money. After last night, with the safe, we are really worried about you. You couldn't remember your own wedding anniversary. That is not normal. That is a sign of decline. Decline. The word hung in the air between us. I rubbed my forehead, feigning a headache. It was just the stress, Derek. The shelter. The cold. I am sure it will come back to me. But what if it doesn't? Monica interjected, leaning in, placing her hand over mine. Her skin was cold. What if you forget to pay the electric bill? What if you forget where you put the check? What if that lawyer Henderson tries to take advantage of you? He is a shark, Bernard. Everyone knows it. He sees a confused elderly man with $10 million, and he sees a payday. We can't let him steal your legacy. I looked down at the table. The irony was so thick I could almost taste it. They were warning me about a thief while trying to pick my pocket in broad daylight. So what is this paper? I asked again. It is a general power of attorney, Monica said, smoothing the cover page. It just allows Derek and me to help you. It gives us the ability to talk to the bank for you to pay your bills to manage the investments. It doesn't mean you lose your money, Bernard. It just means we can carry the burden for you. You earned this rest. You shouldn't have to worry about wire transfers and account numbers at your age. I stared at the document. I knew exactly what it was. Henderson had briefed me on it. A general power of attorney in the wrong hands was a license to steal. It would give them the legal right to empty my accounts, sell my property, and sign my name to anything they wanted. It was the key to the kingdom. I don't know, I muttered, pushing my eggs away. I should probably read it, or show it to Henderson. No, Derek snapped too loud. He flinched, then lowered his voice. No, Dad. You don't need Henderson for this. This is a family matter. Lawyers just complicate things. They charge you $300 an hour to read a standard form. This is just us. Your family. Don't you trust us? He looked at me with those puppy dog eyes that used to work when he was 12 and had broken a window. But he wasn't 12 anymore. He was a 38-year-old man who was trying to swindle his father. I trust you. I lied. My voice cracked perfectly. My eyes. I left my reading glasses upstairs. The print is so small. I'll read it to you, Monica offered quickly. She flipped the page. It basically says that we, Derek and Monica Walsh, are your agents. It says we act in your best interest. See standard language. Fiduciary duty. That means we have to be good. It is the law. She skipped over the paragraphs about unlimited gifting powers and right to sell real estate. I saw them. I recognized the clauses. But I nodded along, blinking rapidly, as if I were struggling to focus. I guess, if it helps, I said weakly. It helps immensely, Dad, Derek said. It means we can set up that investment account today. We can get you that car Tyler wants. We can secure the future. Just sign it, and we can stop worrying. Monica produced a pen from her pocket. It wasn't just any pen. It was a heavy black Mont Blanc. It looked like a weapon. She uncapped it and pressed it into my hand. Right here, Bernard, she pointed to the line at the bottom of the page. And here, and on the last page. We need 3 copies. I held the pen. I let the tip hover over the paper. My hand was trembling, a genuine physical reaction to the rage boiling inside me. They were watching the pen tip like cats watching a laser pointer. Their greed was palpable, a physical heat radiating from their bodies. I can't keep my hand steady, I complained, dropping the pen. It clattered onto the table. Monica picked it up instantly and shoved it back into my fingers. It is okay, she soothed, her voice tight with impatience. Just do your best. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just a mark. I took a deep breath. I thought about Henderson's instructions. We had rehearsed this. We had practiced the specific way I needed to sign. It had to be legible enough to be accepted by them, but flawed enough to be flagged by the bank's fraud department when Henderson called it in. Your signature card at the bank. Henderson had told me requires your full middle name. Bernard Arthur Walsh. You have signed every check that way for 40 years. If you sign this document as just Bernard Walsh or Bernard A. Walsh, we can contest it. We can claim duress. We can claim it doesn't match your official exemplar. It gives us the trap door. I gripped the pen. I hunched over the table, acting like the effort was costing me everything. Okay, I wheezed. For the family. I put the pen to the paper. I wrote slowly, painfully. B-E-R-O-R-D. Monica held her breath. W-A-L-S-H. I lifted the pen. I looked at it. No middle name. No Arthur. Just the bare minimum. Is that okay? I asked, looking up at them with watery eyes. I forgot my middle name. I am so tired. Derek snatched the paper away before the ink was even dry. It is perfect, Dad. It is beautiful. Monica flipped to the next page. Again, Bernard. Just like that. Don't worry about the middle name. We know who you are. I signed the second copy. Bernard Walsh. I signed the third copy. Bernard Walsh. With every stroke of the pen, I saw their shoulders drop. I saw the tension leave their bodies. They thought they had won. They thought they had just legally hijacked $10 million. They didn't know they were holding 3 pieces of evidence that would prove conspiracy to commit fraud. By rushing me by accepting a signature that was visibly shaky and incomplete by bypassing my lawyer, they were digging their own graves. Monica gathered the papers together, tapping them on the table to align the edges. She looked at that stack of paper with more love than she had ever looked at my son. I will file these in the study, she said, standing up. Safe and sound. And then she did something that almost made me break character. She patted me on the head. Like I was a dog. Like I was a child who had just finished his vegetables. Good job, Bernard, she said. Now why don't you go rest in the living room? Derek and I have some calls to make. To the bank. I watched her walk away. Derek lingered for a moment. He looked at the empty plate where my toast used to be. Thanks, Dad, he mumbled. You won't regret this. I looked at him. I looked at the son who had just tricked his father into signing away his life. I know I won't, Derek, I said softly. He didn't hear the double meaning. He just nodded and followed his wife into the hallway. I heard them high-five. I actually heard the slap of skin on skin. Then I heard Monica whisper, "We did it. We are rich." I sat at the table for a long time. The coffee was cold. The house was quiet. But inside my head, the clock was ticking. They were going to the bank. They were going to try to use that paper. And when they did, Henderson's trap would snap shut. I stood up my legs, feeling stronger than they had all morning. I walked to the window and looked out at the snow. Go ahead, I whispered to the empty room. Go to the bank. Run. Because you are running straight off a cliff, and this time I am not going to catch you. The house that night did not look like the home I had built. It looked like a casino that had been airdropped into the suburbs. By 7 o'clock, the driveway was overflowing with cars I didn't recognize. Derek and Monica had invited everyone they knew, and plenty of people they didn't, to what they were calling a celebration of good fortune. They weren't waiting for the check to clear. They weren't waiting for the ink to dry on the power of attorney documents. They were celebrating the windfall they believed was already theirs, spending the lottery money in their minds, before they had even accessed a single dime. I sat in the corner of the living room in my wingback chair, a glass of water in my hand, watching the spectacle. Monica had hired a bartender. A young man in a black vest was shaking martinis in the corner where my wife's piano used to be. The room was filled with smoke and loud laughter, the kind of performative joy that reeks of desperation and greed. Derek was the center of attention. He was wearing a new watch, a gaudy gold thing, that looked heavy on his wrist. He was holding court with a group of his old fraternity brothers, men who hadn't spoken to him in years when he was broke, but who had swarmed back like flies to honey the moment the news broke. My dad, Derek, was saying, his voice slurring slightly. He is a genius. He has this system, see. He played the numbers for 40 years. And now, well, let's just say the Walsh family empire is expanding. We are looking at properties in the Caymans. We are thinking about a boat. He gestured toward me with his glass. There he is. The man, the myth. Say hi to everyone, Dad. I raised my glass of water. I didn't smile. I just stared at him. The guests laughed nervously and looked away. They didn't want to look too closely at the old man in the corner. They didn't want to see the clarity in my eyes because it would ruin the narrative Derek was spinning. To them, I was just the eccentric benefactor, the senile old goose laying golden eggs. Monica was in her element. She was wearing a dress that cost more than my first car, moving through the crowd, with a tray of hors d'oeuvres, accepting congratulations as if she had won the Nobel Peace Prize. She stopped near my chair, leaning down to whisper in my ear. "Smile, Bernard," she hissed, her breath smelling of champagne and malice. "You are embarrassing us. Everyone thinks you are miserable. Look happy. You are a millionaire." "I am happy, Monica," I said, keeping my voice flat. "I am just overwhelmed by all these friends. I didn't know we had so many friends. We have always been popular," she lied smoothly. "Now stay here. Don't wander off. I don't want you getting confused and ending up in the snow again." She patted my shoulder and swanned away. I waited until she was swallowed by the crowd, then I slowly stood up. No one paid attention to me. I was part of the furniture. I shuffled toward the hallway, moving with the slow, deliberate gait of the infirm. I made my way to the downstairs bathroom, locked the door, and pulled out my phone. I opened the app that connected to the listening devices Miller had planted. I put in my earpiece. The cacophony of the party filtered through the living room bug, but the study bug was quiet. Silence. Then I heard the click of the study door opening. I heard heavy footsteps. 2 pairs. No 3. I switched the audio feed to the study. "So this is the place," a voice said. It wasn't Derek. It wasn't anyone I knew. It was a deep, gravelly voice, heavy with a thick Chicago accent. It sounded like gravel being ground in a cement mixer. "This is it," Monica's voice replied. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, fully finished basement. Prime lot. The market value is $500,000 easy. I held my breath. They were in my study, my sanctuary. And the title, the man asked. "Is it clean?" "Clean as a whistle," Derek said. His voice was nervous, higher pitched than usual. "My father is the sole owner. We have the power of attorney signed and witnessing right here. We have full authority to liquidate assets." "Let me see the paper," the man said. There was a rustling sound. I imagined them handing over the document I had signed that morning, the one with the flawed signature. "Looks legit," the man grunted. "But you know how I work, Derek. I don't do title companies. I don't do escrow. I don't do 30-day closings. You want cash fast, you deal with me. But the price is the price." $300,000, Monica said. "That is the lowest we will go. It is a steal at that price." $250, the man countered. "Cash. In a duffel bag. Tonight. Or well, a down payment tonight. The rest when you hand over the keys and the empty house." $250 is robbery," Derek protested weakly. The man laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. "Robbery is what you are doing to the old man, kid. I am just a businessman facilitating a transaction. You want the money for the investors by the first right. You want to keep your kneecaps, then $250 is the price." I leaned against the bathroom sink, gripping the porcelain until my knuckles turned white. They weren't just selling the house. They were selling it to a loan shark. They were selling it for half its value to a criminal because they needed to pay off Derek's gambling debts before the lottery money cleared. They were so desperate, so greedy, that they were willing to pawn my legacy to the ground just to stay warm for a few more days. "Fine," Monica snapped. $250. But we need $50,000 tonight. As a deposit." I heard the sound of a zipper. a heavy canvas sound, then a thud on my oak desk. 50 grand, the man said. Count it. There was silence for a moment, then the rapid flipping of bills. My heart hammered against my ribs. $50,000 in cash. Illegal money. Dirty money. It is all there, Derek breathed. Good, the man said. Now the house. When is it empty? Tomorrow, Monica said. Her voice was cold, devoid of any hesitation. We are moving him tomorrow morning. Moving him where the man asked. To a hotel, no, Monica said. A hotel is too risky. He might wander off. We found a place, the Golden Sunset. It is a state facility out in Waukegan. They have a memory care unit. It is locked, secure. Golden Sunset. I knew the place. It was a warehouse for the indigent. A place where people went to be forgotten, where the smell of urine and boiled cabbage never left the walls. You are putting a millionaire in a state home, the man asked, sounding almost impressed. That is cold, lady. Even for me. He is confused, Derek said, quickly defensive. He needs structure. We will move him to a better place once the lottery money comes in. Once we have control of the trust. Yeah, sure you will, the man scoffed. Look, I don't care what you do with the old guy. Just make sure he is gone. I am bringing my crew in on Friday to gut the place. We are flipping it. I don't want to find Grandpa sleeping in the attic. He will be gone, Monica promised. The van is coming at 8 a.m. By 9, this house is yours. Pleasure doing business, the man said. I heard the door open and close. I heard Derek and Monica exhale in unison. We did it, Derek whispered. 50,000. We can pay Vinny. We can keep the cars. And we have the house money coming next week, Monica added, plus the lottery. Derek, we are going to be kings of this city. I took the earpiece out. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My face was pale, but my eyes were burning. They were going to sell my home to a criminal. They were going to lock me in a state facility. They were going to gut my house, destroy everything I had built, everything that held the memory of my wife. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was the only thing standing between them and total destruction. But now I had them. I had them on tape conspiring to sell a house they didn't own. I had them accepting illicit cash. I had them planning to imprison me. I unlocked the bathroom door and stepped out. The party was still roaring. I walked through the crowd, ignoring the smiles, ignoring the toasts. I walked straight to the study door. It was closed. I didn't knock. I pushed the door open. Derek and Monica jumped apart. They were standing over the desk. The duffel bag was open, revealing stacks of $100 bills. They looked like children caught with their hands in the cookie jar, only the jar was full of poison. Dad Derek yelped, trying to throw a newspaper over the money. We didn't hear you coming. I looked at the bag. I looked at them. I didn't say a word about the money. I didn't say a word about the man who had just left. I played my part. I am tired, I said, my voice trembling. I want to go to bed. But there is so much noise. Who are all these people? Party for you, Bernard. Monica said, her smile strained, her body blocking the desk. To celebrate, I don't want a party, I said. I want my house back. I want quiet. You will have quiet soon, Dad Derek said, sweating. Very soon. Just go upstairs. We will clear everyone out. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, Derek, I forgot. What Dad Henderson called me earlier on my burner phone. He said the bank might call you tomorrow to verify that signature. You know, for the power of attorney. Derek went pale. He looked at Monica. Why would they call us? Monica asked sharply. I don't know, I said, shrugging. Something about security protocols for high net worth individuals. He said, it is standard. Just make sure you answer. I walked out before they could ask any more questions. I climbed the stairs to my room, the sound of the party fading below me. I went into my bedroom and locked the door. I went to the window and looked down at the